Hello, and welcome to Andersen Sports Live. I'm Margaret Silhasic.
And I'm Pierce Scorlett. Let's start with what everyone's talking about in the sports world, and that's NCAA basketball, because we're down to our Final Four. Starting with Oklahoma two nights ago, Buddy Hield decided to go off and win Oklahoma the game. Let's start off. There's his first three. Oh, here's his second three, and then a little step back. There's his third three for Oklahoma, and then a fourth three, and then to end the first half, another three. And that made him have 17 points, and he went 5 from 6 from the three-point range in the first half. And then just to make sure that Oregon knows it, he starts off the second half with another three. But Oregon did not give up just yet. Oregon trying to get back going. You get the steal here, and they go on the fast break, and Elgin Cook has the alley-oop slam. But Oregon could not figure it out, as you can see here with this little miscue and steal and slam by Buddy Hield. Then Buddy Hield would go on to hit some more threes, believe it or not, as it gets swung to him over here, gets a little screen, hits another three, and then it follows with this step back three. Bang! Nails another three. That caps off a 37-point victory for Oklahoma. Then followed by that was Villanova. As you see, Josh Hart throwing up a three, but it gets rebounded by Villanova, and they throw it back in. Villanova up 4 against Kansas, the number 1 seed, trying to pull off the upset. Kansas down 4. Frank Mason runs all the way down, loses it, gathers himself, and hits this big three to put it within 1. But that seemed to not be enough for Kansas to keep on. As you see, Frank Mason with this big three again. Got him down to 1, but they could not pull off the victory. Kansas then, Frank Mason turns it over. Villanova dives on the ball, and that'll put it away. Villanova with the big upset as they move on to the Final Four, as they will meet Oklahoma. You see Bill Self here just saddened by this big upset. 64-59 Villanova. As I said, they will be facing Oklahoma.
And now Virginia took on Syracuse. Here you see Richardson takes it, hits the jumper for the three. Richardson again takes a nice step back. Another three for him. Richardson with the ball, takes it, drives down the middle, up for 2, layup, and the lead. And here Richardson, he was not done. He drives, takes it, gets his own rebound, and puts it back up for 2. And Malachi Richardson was having a great night. Here you see Malcolm Brogan. Devin Hall misses the three-pointer, and Virginia has to foul. This would mean a stunning upset. Syracuse would win 68-62. And there you see those guys celebrating. And now Mike Bray and Notre Dame taking on Roy Williams in North Carolina for a trip to the Final Four. Bryce Johnson steps off the block, knocks down a jumper. Demetrius Jackson has the ball, steps back, and drills a three from the top of the key. Demetrius Jackson, again, he floats the alley-oop to Zach Auguste, who puts it in with some nice touch. North Carolina on an 8-0 run. Theo Pinson drives the lane and lays it up. And now Kennedy Meeks, he makes the pass. Nice alley-oop action there for North Carolina. And North Carolina advances to the 19th Final Four appearance in their school history and their first since 2009.
Now that our Final Four matchups are set, let's send it up to the roundtable where they are going to discuss the Final Four teams more in depth.
Thanks, guys. I'm Nick Hermson here with Evan Troxel, Michael Dixon. Guys, we're talking about the Final Four next week. 2 huge games between Villanova Wildcats, Oklahoma Sooners, and Syracuse, North Carolina. Evan, what do you think about the Wildcats and the Sooners?
Yeah, I mean, the Villanova Wildcats, 33 wins and 5 losses on the season. I mean, one of their best point producers, Josh Hart, 15.3 points per game, and Daniel Ochefu, 17.6 points per game. I mean, as long as Villanova just keeps rolling with those two guys, they have a good chance to win.
Yeah, Villanova's playing at a very high level, but it's tough to discount the Sooners, man. There was a certain point this year where you thought Oklahoma was the team to beat. They kind of faltered towards the end of the year, but they found that groove again here in the NCAA tournament. They've had some impressive wins. Of course, they beat Oregon, number 1 seed in that region. They beat Texas A&M, handled Texas A&M very easily. Yeah. It's tough to think that a Buddy Hield-led Oklahoma Sooners will not advance to the championship game and ultimately win the championship game because they're just so good.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting too to see what the Wildcat defense can do with Buddy at the reins, because you saw what they did to a Kansas team who was a number 1 seed Saturday, just completely threw them off their game. Yeah. Let's move on to Syracuse, North Carolina. Evan, what do you think about the Tar Heels in this one?
I mean, the Tar Heels, they're a really good rebounding team, especially on the offensive boards. I mean, they're 32-6 on the season, 5-3 against ranked opponents. And I mean, Bryce Johnson, he's like the do-it-all machine for North Carolina, 17.1 points per game, 10.5 rebounds per game. So, I mean, he's their go-to guy. He's the guy that has to play well.
Yeah, but on the other hand, you've got Syracuse. I know last time we did one of these roundtables, it was just after the Field of 64 had been released. And all of a sudden, we're thinking, Syracuse, how in the heck did they make this NCAA tournament? Well, hey, they beat Dayton. They beat Middle Tennessee State. They beat Gonzaga. And here they are. After they beat Virginia, came back against Virginia in that second half. Here they are. And at a certain point, you have to wonder, is this team, is it destiny for the 10th seeded Syracuse to make a run like they have?
And it's crazy, too, because we can't forget to talk about Jim Boeheim being out for the first how many games of the season, and Syracuse, went 4-5 without him, and then just kind of made this turnaround now they're all of a sudden in the tournament. Yeah. And like you said, the nation is talking about Syracuse, should they really be in the tournament, and now they're in the Final Four. So what do we think?
It's tough because if you look at Syracuse's regular season resume, they finished 19-13 in the regular season. They were 500 in the ACC. And they had a couple of good wins. They beat Texas A&M and a couple of other opponents, but they lost to St. John's. They lost to Georgetown. They were not playing a high-caliber basketball towards the end of the year. And of course, they did go 4-5 without Boeheim, and I think the committee looked at that when they decided to select Syracuse. But ultimately, when you look at that regular season resume, it's hard to justify the fact that they're in the tournament.
Yeah, I agree. It is a little bit hard to justify, but, I mean, Syracuse does belong in this tournament. I mean, if they would have won 5 of their last 6 games, the last 5 games they lost in the regular season, this team would be 28-8 right now. And I mean, against ranked opponents this season, they're 4-5. So I mean, they're playing North Carolina. They've played them twice already this season. Yeah. Maybe third time's a charm, and they get to the national championship game.
Well, it's definitely going to be an interesting week of Final Four games, to say the least, especially with Nova being in it and Syracuse being in it as well at this point, when the nation really doesn't even know if they should be there at that point. We'll talk later more about basketball. For now, back downstairs to Margaret and Pierce at the desk.
Thanks, guys. There's still a lot to talk about, so stay right here, and we'll be right back after this break.
90.3 KRNU is the University of Nebraska's own radio station located in the School of Journalism and Mass Communications. Since 1970, KRNU has been providing Lincoln with new indie music, local artist promotions, and the long support of local businesses. This year, KRNU is celebrating its 45th anniversary and plans to be around for at least another 45. Tune your FM dial to 90.3 anytime, or hear us live online streaming at krnu.unl.edu.
I always knew I was going to study fashion design in college, and I kind of got addicted to the energy.
Just to be able to see all the hard work the students have put into it and how talented they are.
The most innovative designers are students, and I get really excited knowing that kids are still into it. There's just no other industry like it.
I'm Prince Mukamara, and I'm urging you to go to collegeboundnebraska.com to see if you qualify.
Back to Andersen Sports Live. This year's NCAA men's basketball season hasn't ended just yet, but a couple of teams are already starting to prepare for next year. Starting with Tulane, former NBA head coach Mike Dunleavy is the new head coach for the Green Wave, while former Vanderbilt head coach Kevin Stallings takes over for Jamie Dixon at Pittsburgh. We can expect even more changes to come as the season finishes up. Switching gears to women's basketball, Syracuse and Tennessee played for a trip to the Final Four. Head coach Holly Warlick looking to lead Tennessee to their 19th Final Four, but their first since winning it all in 2008. There you see Brianna Day with the layup, and again, Alex Peterson hits the three. Peterson with another three, and she had 29 points. Syracuse's Brittany Sykes nails a three. And Diamond DeShields was that with the three. And there you have Maggie Morrison laying it up in the middle, and that deep three from Maggie Morrison on the wing, and that would mean Syracuse advances to the Final Four for their first time.
And then Mike Neighbors followed up that game with Ashore dominating the game for Washington with that quick credit card jumper three and a quick layup. But Stanford would come back with a nice little layup, and then they would even get the steal, and they are still fighting to get back in this game. But Ashore proved to be too much as she nails that shot. But Stanford still wasn't done yet with that big three. And then Washington answers with that quick little jumper. But Washington advances to the first Final Four in school history with that win. Big win for the Huskies. Syracuse will meet Washington in Indianapolis, but the other half of the bracket has still yet to be filled. Tonight, the heavy favorite UConn will play Texas for the chance to go to the Final Four, and later tonight, the number 1 seeded Baylor will be playing the number 2 seed Oregon State. Now let's head up to the roundtable to see what our experts have to offer for the show today.
A week and a half ago.
A week and a half, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, guys. Once again, Nick Hermson here with Evan Troxel, Michael Dixon. We'll go and talk about UConn women's basketball here. Ever since a loss to Notre Dame in 2013, they have been 119-1 and won all of those 119 games in double digits. Now, what the nation is talking about, what I want to know your guys' opinion on, is this unfair to the rest of the women's NCAA Division I basketball teams?
Personally, I think so. It's just not that interesting to have a team that is so good playing teams that are so non-competitive. Mm-hmm. It's at the end of it, when you look at a game and you see UConn playing, you know the outcome. And that's not, I mean, would you watch sports? If you knew the outcome of a game, would you watch the game? Because I personally wouldn't. Like, I'm a diehard Texas Longhorn. I grew up a diehard Texas Longhorn. Tonight they're playing for a shot at the Final Four against Connecticut. I don't care because I know Texas is going to lose by 40. It's just not that interesting to me.
I mean, you just never know what can happen in some of these games. Teams sometimes just don't show up. I mean, what I think other teams need to do is recruit better. I mean, is what you want for your university to be a really great women's basketball team? I mean, that's what universities have to really think about. And I mean, Gino Auriemma really hit it on the head the other day when he talked about Tiger Woods. And, you know, you can sort of relate that to, like, the New York Yankees of baseball. I mean, they were really dominant, made 5 out of 6 World Series between 1996 and 2001. And then Moneyball with the Oakland A's came along shortly after that in, like, 2002. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, this makes the things better.
At least the Yankees and at least Tiger Woods lost. Right. This team isn't even losing, and they're winning games by 20, 30, 40, 50 points. Mm-hmm. They had a Sweet 16 game that they won by 60.
And at the same time, what I don't think other schools across the nation are realizing, or just the general population, is that with UConn dominating the women's basketball scene every single year, it's bound to affect schools' recruiting, the money they get to recruit different athletes. And it's like, is every woman basketball player who's graduating high school going to look to go to UConn because that's the winning team?
That's the place to go.
And that's the trend right now.
Yeah, and I think, you know, this is the 21st century. I mean, people try harder to win in sports than they did back in John Wooden's days with UCLA, when UCLA was winning championships left and right. Mm-hmm. So I think it's really important that UConn just keeps putting the pedal to the metal.
All right, well, we got a lot of basketball coming up starting tonight, but let's kind of switch gears. About a week and a half ago, the Chicago White Sox organization came across a conflict with Adam LaRoche and his son being in the clubhouse, I guess a little too much, according to Kenny Williams, which also ultimately pushed LaRoche into retirement, turning down a big contract, leaving a bunch of money on the table. Michael, what do you think about this?
You can see both sides without a doubt, and that's the most difficult thing about this. But if I'm Adam LaRoche and I'm Williams, I understand the fact that even if it's a baseball clubhouse, even if it's sports, it's a workplace, and you have to respect that. And if other players are a little bit uncomfortable with the son being in there 24/7 and on road trips, I can understand where Williams wants to draw the line, because like, this is our workspace right here. This is our desk. If we had kids, they wouldn't be here, right? Yeah. Because that would be inappropriate. So there's a time and place for it, and I'm not sure that this was the time and place for it.
Yeah, I think it was a good thing for Adam LaRoche to retire, because, I mean, he was hitting like 207 last season. And, I mean, one of LaRoche's former teammates, Tyler Moore, I mean, he said that Drake LaRoche was very mature and a very disciplined child.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's mixed opinions on this across the nation. For now, we'll go back down to the desk. Pierce and Margaret, back to you guys.
Definitely feeling opening season and the warm weather today. Let's see what they got into.
You started talking with like 10 seconds left.
A great American tradition is Major League Baseball, and with opening day just 6 days away, we hit the student union to figure out what students think is the best American tradition.
I don't know about you, Margaret, but baseball's always been one of my favorites.
Nebraska football. Football. Fireworks. Basketball.
Celebrating our independence on the 4th of July.
My favorite American tradition, I would say probably hanging out on the weekends, relaxing, watching various sports.
Football. I say football.
Yeah, classically baseball, but not anymore. Everybody hates baseball now that everybody dogs baseball, so. I'd have to say just like nice greasy hot dog.
Beer.
I'll go with the hot dog. Yep.
I'd say Cracker Jack, classic.
A beer.
Yeah, hot dogs. A nice bratwurst.
Hot dogs.
All this talk about ballpark food makes me want a hot dog. For Sports on the Cob, I'm Matt Riddleton. We'll catch you later.
Favorite U.S. traditions. That was funny.
I would definitely agree. Baseball season means the start of summer. And it always makes for a fun story like this one. A little spring training fun in Mesa, Arizona the other day. Jason Hayward, the center fielder for the Chicago Cubs, had a little bit of a challenge playing the outfield for the Cubs. After the game, Jason Hayward tweeted, "Got stung at least 20 times. SMH."
Wow, that does not sound like fun.
Oh, gosh, I don't think he signed up for that one. Oh, not at all. Well, we will be back right after this break.
Donations from our supporters through Campaign for Nebraska enrich the classroom experience, advance research, fuel innovation and economic development, and enhance the campus environment. Campaign for Nebraska and the University of Nebraska-Lincoln thank our donors for gifts that write a story of success for the future.
Well, the speech and debate team is 143 years old. We're the oldest student activity on campus, and we're one of the best.
We work really hard.
And we're the best Big Ten team in the nation.
We've won the Big Ten Tournament Championship 3 years in a row.
And for the past 8 years, we have placed in the top 10 nationally.
We have the best students, the hardest working, the most dedicated. We have the best students here at Nebraska.
Moving on from college basketball to professional basketball, let's go to the NBA as San Antonio took on Oklahoma City in Oklahoma City, starting off with this David West jumper, and then San Antonio would take the steal and they set up this alley-oop as they try to take Oklahoma City at home. But Oklahoma City would prove to be too much as Russell Westbrook would hit that mid-range jumper, then drive the lane and get that two, and then he would find Russell Westbrook would find Ibaka for a big slam, and then Russell Westbrook would keep taking over with that thunderous slam, and then Kevin Durant would ice this game with a big three-pointer. Thunder beat the Spurs 111-92, but then last night, with huge playoff implications, the Pacers would host the Rockets. Monte Ellis hitting this money shot right there, putting Indiana up 102-99 with 2 minutes to go. And then we catch it up with 3 seconds left. Dwight Howard with the ball at the top, passes it to Jason with Terry for the three, and he just couldn't hit it. The Pacers would win that game 104-101, keeping their playoff hopes alive as they sit in the 7th seed. As we look at the Eastern Conference right here, the Pistons sitting in the 8th seed with following the Bulls and the Washington Wizards right behind them. Then as we look to the Western Conference, the Rockets just barely hanging on to that 8th seed with Dallas and Denver looking to take advantage and make it into the playoffs.
Los Angeles Clippers power forward Blake Griffin has been cleared to play and will begin serving his 4-game suspension on Sunday against the Denver Nuggets. Griffin has been out since December 26th after tearing his left quadricep, then prolonging his absence by fracturing his hand during an altercation with the Clippers' assistant equipment manager. Kansas City Chiefs safety Hussein Abdullah is adding his name to the growing list of players who have walked away from the NFL because of health concerns. Abdullah announced his retirement after the 7 seasons of play on Monday. Along with his announcement, Abdullah said on Instagram that he sustained his 5th concussion this past season, which sidelined him for 5 weeks. Abdullah joined the NFL as an undrafted free agent out of Washington State and spent 4 productive seasons with the Minnesota Vikings before earning a spot on the Chiefs roster.
Taking it to the NHL as we go on the ice, the Chicago Blackhawks had a big game against the Vancouver Canucks as they try to defend their Stanley Cup title. If they get 1 win, they move on to the playoffs. And then we started off with Trevor Reamsdeck finding Thomas Fletcherman as Fletcherman shoots and scores for the Blackhawks, putting them at 1-0. And then Taves drives on the right side of the ice, dishes it off to Andrew Ladd, and he shoots and scores, putting the Blackhawks up 3-2 and securing their spot in the Stanley Cup playoffs to defend their Stanley Cup title.
Now Eric Stahl and the Rangers hosting the Penguins. Eric Stahl right here with the goal, and assisting Derek Pouliot hits the stick of Matt Cullen, who will end up putting it in for the goal. And now Eric Stahl again hits the money shot, and now Phil Kessel hits the top shelf. And again, Sidney Crosby in overtime wins it for the Penguins 3-2.
Basketball is not the only NCAA tournament going on right now. NCAA men's hockey has officially gotten down to 4 teams, with Boston College playing their big rival Quinnipiac, and Denver taking on North Dakota in the Frozen Four this year in Tampa, Florida.
A Utah judge has dismissed domestic violence and assault charges against Olympic gold medal skier Picabo Street. Street faced misdemeanor charges after prosecutors say she threw her 76-year-old father down the stairs and locked him in the basement during a fight at her home near Park City. Prosecutors last week moved to drop the charges, saying the matter shouldn't be handled in court, but instead reviewed by a state office that investigates elder abuse. Street's lawyer said statements from the skier's mother and father made it clear she was acting in self-defense. Street won a gold medal in the 1998 Winter Olympics in the women's Super G. Over spring break, Nebraska athlete Bekmir Ishmailov competed for a national championship in table tennis. Our player highlight team sat down to talk with him.
Bekmir Ishmailov better known as Beck, is a 21-year-old PhD student at the University of Nebraska. He grew up in Kyrgyzstan and made the national team when he was only 14 years old and was the youngest player at the World Championships in 2009. He first came to America in 2014 at the University of Northern Colorado.
Always wanted to come to America because, like, my country, like, there aren't many opportunities. It's a pretty poor country and not many ways to succeed. And especially if you're really, really talented, you want to get out and to come to America. That's where all the opportunities are. That's where the money is. That's where, like, I think it was the best place for me to, like, develop further.
After graduating from Northern Colorado, Beck enrolled at Nebraska, where now he's competing for a national championship. In his training, he has focused on his weaknesses.
Definitely, like, my biggest weakness is like being physical, my stamina and strength. So for the past like a couple of weeks, I've been trying to go to swimming, playing more basketball games, lifting, like trying to get stronger, better, faster.
Beck's focus isn't only on table tennis. In Kyrgyzstan, he graduated as one of the top students. He went on to a university in Kazakhstan before coming to America. It's hard to find free time when pursuing a PhD in finance and playing at a high level in table tennis.
Yeah, so I'm a first-year PhD student in finance. I mean, still have a long way to go. The program is really hard. I study like 24/7 pretty much.
As far as career opportunities, Beck is keeping his options open.
Well, first of all, I owe to my professors to look into research universities. So that's where they want me to go, and honestly, that's where I strongly consider going. But like having like that option to go to Wall Street, either it's a hedge fund, like private equity, whatever it is, like having that option is really nice.
The college table tennis championships were held in Texas over spring break. Beck lost his first two matches in group play by a total of only 6 points and was thrown into the consolation bracket, where he finished second.
We are going to take one last break. Stay here for this week's upcoming games.
Bektemir Ishmailov, better known as Beck, is a 21-year-old.
We'll see if history can repeat itself for the Huskers. They can have back-to-back years with beating Purdue if they lose this game.
What would we do if we won the Powerball jackpot?
That's daunting to think about.
The music may change, but we'll still be there. Music, sports, and more. 90.3 KRNU.
As we come to an end with everything that happened this week, let's send it to Vincent Pena as he tells us what are the upcoming games for this week.
Thanks, guys. We got a pretty jam-packed week full of sports for you, starting tonight with the NCAA Women's Elite Eight, featuring number 1 UConn taking on number 2 Texas and number 1 Baylor taking on number 2 Oregon State for the right to play in the Final Four. We have a ton of NBA games this week, but let's move to Thursday when the Clippers take on Oklahoma City, Chicago takes on Houston, and Boston plays the Trail Blazers. Friday, we have Cleveland at Atlanta, Toronto at Memphis, and Boston heading to Golden State to try and knock off the Golden State Warriors in their historic run. Saturday, we have an even bigger day. We have Detroit, Chicago battling for the last spot in the East, Toronto at San Antonio, and then we have the men's Final Four in Houston with Villanova playing Oklahoma and North Carolina taking on 10th-ranked Syracuse, definitely the surprise team of the tournament for the right to go to the national final. And on Sunday, we have the women's Final Four, as well as a number of NBA games, Charlotte at Cleveland, Oklahoma City at Houston, Portland at Golden State. And we also have Kobe playing Boston for the last time in Los Angeles for his last run at the Celtics. In addition to that, we also have MLB opening day with St. Louis taking on Pittsburgh, New York Mets taking on Kansas City in a rematch of the World Series, and Chicago at the Angels, among other games. But that'll do it for us this week, the upcoming games. Let's send it back up to you in the studio.
Thanks for watching us today. We will be back next week.